Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm back and I got a new microphone thanks to my lovely, lovely wife. So, in the last episode, we talked about a lot of deep shit, some important things, I should say. And I want to get back into that conversation. So, I don't want to delay this any further, and hopefully, this audio sounds a little less like a conference call because what I was using before basically was for a conference call. So, in the last episode, I touched briefly into Stoicism, or I think I referred to virtue ethics in the last episode. But a great example of virtue ethics is Stoicism. Now, I'm not Ryan Holiday, but I did study some of his books, and I've read Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, a little bit of Seneca. Gotta be honest, it's a dry read. It's tough to understand some of what's being said in those books. I don't know if I fully understand it all, but I do understand that at the crux of Stoicism is the idea of virtue ethics and the virtues that you subscribe to if you're a Stoicist or if you're following Stoicism. Those would be courage, justice, wisdom, and temperance. So, those are pretty big words and they can mean different things to different people. And I think that's one of the flaws of Stoicism is there isn't like an exact definition of how to be a stoic. It's just that, you're put into this world and you can only control yourself and how you react to the environment you're in. And the way a stoicist would react would be through these four virtues, whether it be courage, justice, wisdom, or temperance. But um, to me, to aim for that ideal, to aim for the virtue of those four things, is being more authentic than hiding who you are, like the Boo Ghost I mentioned last video in Mario. So, um, I'm just going to talk a little bit about what Stoicism means to me and how I try to practice it in my life. Um, so, one of the first things I mentioned was courage being a virtue of Stoicism. I think courage is really, I think it would, for me personally, I think courage is the most important virtue to practice. And at the same time, it's the most difficult virtue to implement because courage isn't one of those things that you only do when people are looking. Courage is something that comes from your core being, and being courageous requires you to face different obstacles in a way that's very consistent, which means you're finding solutions in tough environments and not being afraid, not showing fear. And uh, ultimately, to me, that's why courage is the most important virtue because you build all other three virtues off of the virtue of courage. How could you possibly be just if you're not courageous? It takes, police officers and people of that caliber to be courageous, to do their job, to implement justice in this society. So I really don't see how you could have justice without courage. Now, you could argue there's no courage without justice, but I think that's different. What I think justice actually is saying we are all supposed to be treated on an even playing field. No, we're not supposed to be getting the same results. I don't think it's possible for everyone in this world to become the next Elon Musk. I don't think it's possible to become the next Ryan Holiday. I don't think it's possible to become your neighbor. I don't think you want to do that, but the ability to you should have the ability to reach an opportunity evenly as the rest of the world. And unfortunately, that's not the case. Unfortunately, we're not living in a society on many levels where we all start on an even playing field. Um, I don't know. I'm not getting into the politics all that. I don't know how you fix that. But to me, ultimately, what justice is saying that we're all treated based on the same rules. We all have to follow the same rules. That hence the Bill of Rights that the United States has. We all have those 10 um, amendments. Freedom of speech is the First Amendment, amongst other things in the First Amendment. But it's because of the Constitution that we have justice and other bodies of law that give us justice. But to me, justice is all about having a society where we're all treated exactly the same given the circumstances that we find ourselves in. So, courage and justice are different, but I don't think you can have a just society, I don't think you can have people enforcing an uneven playing field if they're not courageous. Because there's a lot of bullies, there's a lot of people trying to bend the rules, and you need someone tough to go up against the people that break the rules or want to be treated as first class citizens and other people as second class citizens. You're not going to have a world that functions without courage and without justice. Now, the third virtue that Stoicism talks about is wisdom, and wisdom's an interesting one. I'm still fairly young. I mean, I'm in my 30s, so I'm not as young as I used to be. So I am developing some wisdom, and I think wisdom just comes with experience. As you get older, and hopefully your memory stays intact, you learn as you go. I mean, there's no other way around it. Wisdom comes with experience and success, and then that also gives you more confidence. And as you get more confidence, you can do things wiser, and that to me is like the sub groups of wisdom is those things. And then temperance, I think temperance is an interesting word. To me, what temperance means is being on even keel, you're keeping your emotions even keel. There's different ways you can do or practice temperance. I have found Buddhism to be a nice parallel to Stoicism, where Buddhists talk about being in the moment, being very present. These are terms that a Buddhist might use, and they do this through things like meditation and mindfulness. These are definitely great ways to practice temperance. I think there's other ways you can exhibit it and practice it, but that was just a crossover to Buddhism because I do want to talk about Eastern philosophy because I have studied a bit of that as well. And what I find nice about Buddhism is, yes, it's a religion, but you can also look at it from a non-sec or from a secular lens, a non-religious lens, and that's what's nice about Buddhism. It gives you tools to navigate the world without subscribing to a religion. So I have studied a bit of that. I don't know how deep I want to get into that in this particular episode, but I just wanted to call that out there. Another thing about temperance that is interesting. Um, or something I've discovered is there's different ways you can handle a problem exhibiting temperance and wisdom. And that's basically what I'm getting into here. Whereas, when you have a problem that comes your way, once again, the only thing you can control is yourself. But how are you going to react to those things? Are you going to be reactive, meaning in the moment, do you immediately try to find a solution to a problem? Or, sometimes you react to things without even thinking. And reactivity can be good and bad. It means that you're trying to solve a problem in very quick time, and there's a high turnaround and or a quick turnaround. But ultimately, what I think you want to be is proactive. You want to discover a problem and have a solution in mind before it ever happens to be a real problem for you in life. And okay, that's easier said than done. But as you get older, a lot of things slow down. A lot of the problems you see are kind of the same, or you've seen them before, maybe in a different fashion, and you can navigate the world proactively if you can kind of predict what's going to happen before it arises and the problem becomes a real issue for you. A third way of interacting with the world when problems arise is you can be non-reactive, which is kind of what Buddhists have taught me, or what Buddhism, secular Buddhism, for specifics, has taught me, is that sometimes you can do nothing at all, and doing nothing is something in the midst of a problem. I mean, sometimes, let's say you're driving down a highway, and sometimes the driver in front of you does something crazy. Now, sometimes you have to react. Sometimes you have to step on the brake, and that is the solution from preventing a car accident. Other times, sometimes you see something to the side of the road, and rather than staring at some other car accident and then that's putting you in danger, you don't look at it at all. You're non-reactive. You're just focusing on what's in front of you. You're staying in the moment. That's one example of being non-reactive. There's a lot of ways. Someone says something to you that's kind of offensive. You could say something offensive back. You could predict in the future what they're going to say and say something offensive like before they can even say it. That's being proactive, I guess. Or you can kind of shrug it off. You can just let it go. And if it bothers you, meditate about it. Let it go. Ultimately, being non-reactive is trying to let things go and just staying even keel. And then the other option you could do in life, You can be retroactive, and retroactive is to me, where you don't want to be. It's basically admitting I made a mistake. I'm going back in time retroactively to fix it. A lot of examples to that. Say you're doing math, and somewhere along the way you got the wrong answer. You got to backtrack through each step of the formula or whatever you're doing, and you got to say, "There's my mistake, fix it," and then you get the right number. So that's an example of being retroactive. Um, Now I want to get into, why do people not react to life, or why do people not handle life's challenges in a virtuous sense, in the ideal sense? And this is something that it's kind of hard to admit, but there's a lot of reasons why you might not be virtuous. Some are simple, some are very complex. I mean, a simple answer is you're just scared. Say you see a friend of yours in high school being bullied, and Stoicism would say, show courage, stand up to the bully. But let's say the bully's like 6'3" and you're 5'5". Like, good fucking luck taking on that dude that's gonna kick your ass for your friend that was the one that was being bullied. I mean, you could have just been non-reactive, let it go, and just you would have been fine. So it is there is like there's legitimate reasons why you might not practice virtue when really you should. Other reasons why is you're trying to protect someone and you might lie. I mean, lying is good in the sense if you're trying to protect someone, but lying is also bad because you're not telling the truth. Lying is a weird thing. It's not always bad, but most of the times it is, and you want to be honest, but if someone's asking you a question and you don't know how to answer it honestly, you're gonna lie. Maybe to protect their feelings. I mean, maybe it's almost like developing that verbal filter. I mean, you're not always gonna say what's on your mind to someone. Sometimes you just have to lie or bend the truth, and you're not being courageous, or you're not being virtuous in that sense. But there are reasons why people don't reach the ideal of virtue, and they get through life, and we're imperfect for that reason. Other reasons why you might not be virtuous, you might have shame or guilt, and you're working through your own problems, and you might not do what's virtuous in the moment because of those emotions going through your head. And then the last reason why you might not be virtuous, you might have an agenda, an alternative agenda, an ideology that tells you it's okay to treat people a certain way when it's really not. Once again, not going to get into politics, but those are reasons why people do not exhibit virtue. I mean, there's probably other reasons as well. Um, Sometimes it's just as simple as greed and money. I mean, some people don't do the right thing because it's lucrative to not do the right thing, and I don't know. And money's important. We all need it to survive, but you gotta ask yourself, what's worth more sometimes, your ideals or the money? And a lot of people get into these things. A lot of artists, a lot of people out there on TV. I mean, are they doing it just for money? Do they believe in what they're saying? I don't know. And then I just want to end this episode because we're dragging on a little bit. My wife was so kind to me. It is the holidays, and I got this Mario video game. It's a Game and Watch. It's like an old school Game Boy. It's older than Game Boy. I mean, the first ones came out before Game Boy, and I'm now playing Mario for real. So, lessons I've learned from Mario as I keep going on is that time is of the essence. Mario times you in each level, and you have to beat it in like 400 seconds, and you get points the quicker you beat the level. So, that's something I learned from Mario as well. And and do-overs only exist in video games. In life, we don't get to do over things. Sometimes we get do-overs, but it's less cut and dry. But um, the only times you really get to do things exactly over is in video games. Otherwise, you can only move forward in life. You can't always look back at your mistakes and say, I could have done this better. Next time I won't do this. Yeah, you got to learn your lessons from history and past experiences, but ultimately, you can only live in the present. You can't go backwards, and I guess you can go a little faster into future. I mean, there's science behind that, but we haven't harnessed like time travel and whatnot. So really, all you have is the current state you're in, and you don't get to do it over like a video game of Mario. So that's it. hope you enjoyed this podcast or whatever the hell this is, philosophy channel, and have a good day. Bye.